homeless boy became friends with Millionaire's wheelchair-bound son, and everything changed after that. Catherine Reynolds felt her heart tighten when she looked out the window of her 10th-floor office. Down below, on the busy street, a black boy in patched-up clothes was carrying another boy on his back, running and laughing as if they were the happiest kids in the world. What made her grip the phone tightly and forget about the meeting about to start was recognizing the red blazer. It was the blazer she had bought for her son Ethan to wear at the birthday party 3 months ago, the last time he had smiled like that. "Oh my God," she whispered, feeling tears burn her eyes. 3 weeks earlier, everything had started with a mistake, a simple mistake that would change everything. The driver, Mr. Wilson, had caught a virus that day. Catherine called the physical therapy center to say she would pick up Ethan herself, but the message never reached the receptionist, covering the afternoon shift. When the workday ended, Ethan was left alone in the waiting room, sitting in his wheelchair, staring at the door and waiting. An hour passed. The clinic started closing up. The cleaning lady had already turned off half the lights when a boy appeared at the door. "Hi," the boy said, watching Ethan with curiosity, but without the pity that usually showed in people's eyes. "Are you waiting for someone too?" Ethan quickly wiped his face, trying to hide that he had been crying. "My driver is late." The boy came in, carrying an old bag on his back. He was maybe 9 or 10 years old, skinny, wearing a grey patched-up t-shirt and pants that must have been black once, but now had the color of time. "Driver?" The boy sat on the floor near him. "So you're rich?" "My mom is," Ethan answered quietly. "I'm nothing." The boy gave a short laugh. "Funny, I think the opposite. My grandma always said I was everything, but we had nothing." Ethan looked at him with interest for the first time. "Your grandma?" "She passed away a few months ago. Now it's just me," the boy said without self-pity, like someone stating a simple fact of life. "My name is Jaden." "Ethan." "Cool red blazer, Ethan. Looks like a superhero outfit." Ethan looked at his own jacket that his mom had bought at the mall's most expensive store. He had never thought of it that way. "I don't feel much like a superhero," he admitted, hitting his own leg without feeling anything. Jaden followed his gaze. "Because of the chair. It's stupid, right? I have everything and I can't even walk." "It's not stupid." Jaden moved closer. "But it's not the end of the world either. I know a guy who sells popsicles at the square. He doesn't have either leg, uses those arm crutches. But he's the fastest around. No one gets away without paying." Ethan laughed for the first time in weeks. A real laugh that hurt his chest. It felt so good. "Really? I swear. He says he developed superpowers in his hands from dragging himself around so much. Now he can make 20 popsicles in 5 minutes. It's like superhuman speed." They talked for another half hour. Jaden told stories about the streets, the people he knew, the places he slept. He spoke with a naturalness that made everything seem like an adventure. When Catherine finally arrived, desperate and apologizing, she found her son laughing at something that strange boy had said. "Ethan, my love, forgive me. The traffic was impossible and I—" "It's okay, Mom," Ethan interrupted, still smiling. "This is Jaden. He kept me company." Catherine looked at the boy in worn-out clothes and felt a tightness in her chest. She thanked him politely and practically dragged Ethan out of there. On the way home, she noticed her son wouldn't stop talking about the stories Jaden had told. That night, for the first time since the accident that left him without the use of his legs, Ethan ate everything at dinner. In the following days, Ethan kept asking about Jaden all the time. Catherine tried to distract her son with new toys, outings, anything, but the boy only wanted to know when he would return to physical therapy. "Will he be there?" he asked every morning. "Honey, that boy has nothing to do with the clinic. It was just a coincidence." "But I want to see him again." Catherine sighed. She didn't know how to explain that it wasn't appropriate, that she knew nothing about that boy, that he could be dangerous. A week later, Ethan went back to physical therapy. He did the exercises without complaining, which normally required fights and tears. When he finished, he asked to stay in the reception for a few minutes. Catherine agreed, thinking he wanted to play with the toys in the waiting room, but Ethan was waiting for Jaden, and Jaden showed up. "Hey, my red blazer friend," The boy entered with a wide smile. "Thought I wouldn't see you again." "I come here every week," Ethan replied excitedly. "You too?" "Oh, I pass by here from time to time. There's a bakery 2 streets down that sometimes gives me old bread, and I like to look through the window here." "Look at what?" Jayden shrugged. "People doing physical therapy. It's like a gym, but more interesting. People are really pushing themselves, you know? Fighting to do simple things. I think that's cool." Catherine watched everything from a distance, ready to step in. But there was something in the way Jayden spoke to Ethan. No pity. Not treating him as if he were broken. As if they were just 2 boys talking. "Jayden, do you want to walk with us to the car for a bit?" Ethan asked, looking hopefully at his mother. Catherine opened her mouth to say no, but she saw her son's eyes, that light that had been gone for so long. "Sure," she replied against all her instincts. "But just quickly, okay?" On the way to the car, Jayden pushed Ethan's wheelchair, not with the exaggerated care that adults use, but naturally. He made turns, sped up a little, told a story about a man who sold balloons in the square and how the balloons were actually disguised alien spies. Ethan laughed so much that Catherine had to stop to keep from crying right there on the sidewalk. When they reached the car, Jayden said goodbye with a little wave. "See you next time. Red blazer superhero." "Jayden, wait," Catherine heard herself say before thinking. Where do you live?" The boy hesitated. For the first time, his cheerful face turned serious. "Around." "Around how?" "Around, ma'am. Here and there, depends on the day." Catherine understood. She felt her chest tighten again. "Do you have family? Someone who takes care of you?" "I don't need anyone to take care of me. I'm 10 years old. I can manage on my own." There was pride in his voice. "Jayden, I want to make you an offer. My son really likes you. How about you come visit us from time to time? You could have lunch with us, play a little with Ethan." "Mom!" Ethan shouted with happiness. Jayden narrowed his eyes, suspicious. "I don't want charity." "It's not charity," Catherine replied firmly. "It's friendship. My son needs friends, and you seem like a good friend." "And what do I get out of it?" The direct question took Catherine by surprise. "Food, a warm place, company." She paused. "And maybe someone who cares whether you're okay or not." Jayden was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Okay. But I'm not going to be like a pet. I don't want to be treated like a poor thing." "Deal." Catherine extended her hand. Jayden shook it, surprised by the formal gesture, and so began a strange routine. Twice a week, Jayden would show up at the Reynolds mansion. At first he was tense, expecting some trick, but Ethan welcomed him with such genuine joy that it was impossible not to relax. They played in the house's huge garden. Jayden was pushing Ethan's wheelchair while pretending to race, narrating the competitions like a radio announcer. He made up crazy stories about the neighbors, about the birds in the garden, about anything that would make Ethan laugh. And Ethan laughed. My God, how he laughed. Catherine watched from afar, still not fully trusting. She had the housekeeper, Mrs. Margaret, keep an eye out whenever Jayden was around. But Mrs. Margaret, a woman in her 60s who had worked in the house since before Ethan was born, had a different opinion. "That boy has a heart of gold, ma'am," she said one day. "I saw him share his snack with the birds. He didn't even eat half, gave almost all of it to the little creatures." "He was hungry, Margaret. He should have eaten it all." I offered him more. He said he didn't want to overdo it, that he had to be considerate. Catherine didn't know how to respond to that. The weeks went by. Jayden began to feel more comfortable. He showered at the house, accepted clean clothes that Catherine set aside, but he always took his old clothes back when he left. "Why don't you leave those torn clothes here and take the new ones?" Ethan asked one day. "Because these are mine. The new ones are borrowed," Jayden replied, as if it were obvious. 1 month after their first meeting, something changed. Jayden was playing with Ethan in the garden when he noticed the boy wincing in pain. "Does it hurt?" "It's normal. It hurts sometimes, even when I don't feel it." Ethan tried to smile but was pale. "Where does it hurt?" "In my back. The doctors say it's because of my spine." Jayden became thoughtful. Then, without asking permission, he went over to Ethan and began gently pressing his back in specific spots. "What are you doing?" Ethan asked. My grandmother was a massage therapist. She taught me a few tricks. Let me try something. Catherine appeared at the garden door at that moment and almost had a fit. What are you doing to my son? Calm down, Mom. He's helping me. The pain is going away, Ethan said quickly. Jaden, you can't just go around touching people. Sorry, Mrs. Reynolds. My grandmother used to do this to me when I fell and got hurt. I thought it might help. Catherine was ready to send the boy away when she saw Ethan's face. He was relaxed for the first time in hours. Let him continue, Mum. Please. It's really helping. Against her will, Catherine agreed. She watched every move, ready to intervene. But Jaden seemed to know exactly what he was doing. His fingers found spots on Ethan's back that eased the tension. In 15 minutes, the boy was visibly better. How did you learn this? Catherine asked, surprised. My grandmother worked at a spa before she got sick. She said hands could heal if you knew where to touch. She taught me a lot when I was little. Your grandmother was wise. She was, Jaden agreed softly. That night, Catherine researched therapeutic massage for spinal injuries. She was surprised to discover that there were indeed techniques that could help. Perhaps that boy knew something she didn't. The next day, she allowed Jaden to continue with the massages, but under Mrs. Margaret's supervision. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. Time passed, and the friendship between the boys deepened. Ethan began to have fewer pain episodes. He slept better, smiled more. Even the physical therapist commented on the improvement in the boy's emotional state. What are you doing differently at home? Dr. Michael asked. Ethan is more engaged in the exercises, more motivated. Catherine couldn't explain that the difference had a name, Jaden, but not everything was rosy. 3 months after the friendship began, problems arose. Catherine Reynolds had a partner in her import-export business. Richard Harrison was a man in his early 50s, a widower, who had always made his interest in her clear. Catherine always kept the relationship strictly professional, but Richard was persistent. When he found out about Jaden, he didn't like it one bit. Catherine, have you lost your mind? He said during a meeting at the office. You brought a street kid into your home. He's not a street kid. He's a boy who is temporarily without a home. It's different. It's the same thing. You know nothing about him. He could be casing your house, planning a robbery. These kids are trained for that. Don't talk like that. Jaden is a good kid. A good kid? Richard let out a bitter laugh. Catherine, for God's sake, you're a brilliant businesswoman, but you're being naive. This boy has seen your house, your things. He knows you have money. Soon he'll show up with a gang and... That's enough, Richard. I won't listen to this. But the seed of doubt was planted. That same week, Catherine's favorite piece of jewelry went missing. A pearl necklace that had belonged to her grandmother, one of the few family heirlooms she possessed. Catherine turned the whole house upside down. She asked all the staff. No one had seen it. It was Mrs. Margaret who found it. The necklace was in Jaden's old backpack, hidden among his things. Ma'am, I don't know what to say. Mrs. Margaret was visibly upset. I found it when I was putting away his clean laundry. Catherine felt as if she had been doused with cold water. All of Richard's words came back as an echo. She had been foolish, naive. She had put her son in danger because of... Where is he? She asked, her voice hard. In the garden with Ethan. Catherine went down the stairs, clutching the necklace tightly. She found the 2 boys playing, laughing. Jaden was making Ethan laugh with some absurd story. The scene that once warmed her now made her stomach churn. Jaden, I need to speak with you, she said, controlling her voice. The boy immediately sensed something was wrong. His cheerful face closed off. Did something happen? I want you to explain how this ended up in your backpack. Catherine showed him the necklace. Jaden's face went pale. Ethan also fell silent. I can explain. Then explain, Catherine crossed her arms. Ethan dropped it yesterday when we were walking in the garden. I found it on the ground and kept it to give back to you. But I forgot to tell you yesterday because it was late and you were in that meeting. You expect me to believe that? Mom, it's true, Ethan interjected. I took the necklace to show Jaden. I told him it was from Grandma. Then it fell when we were running. Ethan, you shouldn't have taken this necklace at all, and you, she looked at Jaden, should have given it back to me immediately. I was going to give it back. I'm not a thief. There was hurt in Jaden's eyes. No? Then why did you hide it in your backpack instead of giving it to me? Because I put it away carefully so it wouldn't get damaged. Those pearls are delicate. I could see that. I didn't want it to break if I just left it somewhere. Catherine wanted to believe him, but Richard was right. She didn't know this boy. She didn't really know anything about him. I think it's best if you don't come here anymore, Jaden. The silence that followed was deafening. Mum, no, Ethan started to cry. He didn't do anything wrong. I'm the one who took the necklace. Ethan, honey, you don't understand. I do understand. You think everyone who doesn't have money is a thief. Ethan's words cut like a knife. Jaden stood up slowly. He picked up his old backpack. It's okay, Ethan, I understand. He quickly wiped his face. It was good while it lasted. Jaden, don't go, please. Ethan tried to move the chair behind him, but Jaden was already walking away quickly. Goodbye, superhero in the red blazer. You're the coolest guy I've ever met. He turned at the garden gate. And Mrs. Catherine, thank you so much for everything. Really. But I'm not a thief. My grandmother raised me better than that. And he left. Ethan cried so much that night that he threw up. Catherine tried to comfort him, to explain, but the boy wouldn't listen. You sent my only friend away, he screamed between sobs. He didn't do anything, and you didn't believe him. Son, I'm protecting you. From what? From the only guy who treats me like a normal person? The words hit Catherine hard. In the following days, Ethan spiraled downward. He stopped eating. He didn't want to do physical therapy. He wouldn't talk to anyone. He spent hours staring out the window, as if expecting to see Jaden appear in the garden. Catherine tried everything, bought new games, promised trips. Nothing worked. The boy was wasting away before her eyes. Dr. Michael was called for a house visit. Catherine, I need to be honest with you, he said after examining Ethan. His emotional state is affecting his physical health. He needs a reason to fight. And whatever that reason was, he's lost it. It was just a friend. There's no such thing as just a friend for a child with Ethan's condition. The doctor was direct. He felt isolated, different, and he found someone who made him feel normal. You took that away from him. The words weighed on Catherine like lead. That night she talked with Mrs. Margaret. Do you believe he was going to return the necklace? The housekeeper didn't hesitate. Yes. That boy has character, ma'am. I'm sure of it. How can you be so sure? Because I've watched him all these months, saw how he treats Ethan, how he takes care of things. He always asks permission before taking anything, always says thank you, always offers to help. That's not the behavior of someone planning to rob the house. Catherine stayed up all night. She thought about everything, about how Ethan was before Jaden, apathetic, no spark in his eyes, no will to live, and after, the laughter, the energy, the light that came back. And she thought about Jaden, a 10-year-old boy living alone on the streets, but who had manners, consideration, who shared food with little birds, who knew massage to relieve pain, who treated her son with dignity. What kind of grandmother had raised a boy like that? The next morning, Catherine made a decision. Margaret, I need you to help me find Jaden. Ma'am, I made a mistake. I need to fix it. But finding Jaden wasn't easy. He wasn't at the physical therapy clinic. He wasn't at the park. He wasn't at the bakery. It was as if he had disappeared. Catherine asked the homeless people in the area. Most didn't know him. Some had seen a boy matching the description, but it had been a while. A week passed. Ethan got worse every day. He could barely get out of bed. It was Richard who brought news. Catherine, I found out something about that boy, he said, entering her office. I don't want to know, Richard. You'll want to. I found out he's living in an abandoned building near the east side. And there's more. He has a heart condition. He needs treatment. Catherine lifted her head sharply. How did you find that out? I have my contacts. Richard shrugged. I thought you'd like to know you were right to send him away. He's a walking problem. Give me the address now. Why, Catherine, you're not going to... The address, Richard. He, reluctantly, wrote it on a piece of paper. Catherine grabbed her purse and ran out. On the way, she called Dr. Michael. I need you to meet me. I'll give you an address. Bring your equipment. The abandoned building was in a peripheral neighborhood. Catherine had never been in that part of the city. The streets were full of potholes, the houses small and crammed together. Children played barefoot in the street. The unfinished building had 4 floors of exposed concrete, stairs without railings, windows without glass. Catherine climbed carefully, calling for Jaden. She found him on the 3rd floor. Jaden was curled up in a corner, shivering under an old blanket. Even from a distance, Catherine could see he had a high fever. Jaden, she approached slowly. The boy opened his eyes. They were glassy, feverish. Mrs. Reynolds, his voice came out weak. Am I dreaming? No, dear, I'm here. What happened to you? Just a cold. It'll pass. But when Catherine touched his forehead, it was burning. Dr. Michael arrived at that moment and did a quick checkup. We need to take him to the hospital now. No. Jaden tried to get up and fell back. I don't have money for the hospital. I'll pay for everything. Come on, Jaden, no arguments. Catherine picked him up in her arms. He was too light for a 10-year-old boy. At the hospital, the doctors confirmed what Richard had said. Jaden had a congenital heart condition. Nothing serious if treated, but it needed monitoring. With the high fever and malnutrition, his body had collapsed. A few more days without treatment, and it could have serious consequences, the doctor explained. He was very weak. Catherine sat by Jaden's bed while he slept, sedated. She looked at that thin face, at the patched clothes on the chair, and she cried. She cried for having doubted him, for having believed that a child who had faced the world alone since he was 9 would have stolen a necklace, for having been so blind. When Jaden woke up a few hours later, he found Catherine still there. You stayed, he said, surprised. I'm sorry, Jaden, I'm really sorry. For what? For not believing you. You were telling the truth about the necklace, and I let prejudice speak louder. Jaden was silent for a moment. Everyone thinks poor people are thieves. I'm used to it. But you shouldn't have to get used to it, especially from me. You've always been good with my son, you were honest, you were true, and I repaid you with suspicion. Is Ethan okay? The genuine concern in the sick boy's voice broke Catherine's heart. He's not too well. He misses you. Tell him I'm okay, that he doesn't need to worry about me. Why don't you tell him yourself? When you get out of here, I want you to come stay at our house, not for a few hours. Come stay for real. Jaden's eyes widened. What do you mean? I'm going to file for temporary custody. I want to take care of you, Jaden. I want you to have a real home, school, medical treatment, everything a child should have. But I'm not your son. Not biologically. But you make my son happy in a way I can't. You're important to him. And after these days I realized you're important to me too. Tears streamed down Jaden's face. What if I don't want to? I like my freedom. Then it will be a home where you have freedom. I won't lock you up. I won't treat you like a charity case. You'll be part of the family, with all the rights and duties that means. Duties? Yes. You'll have to study, do chores, obey rules, be Ethan's real brother. Jaden thought for a long moment. And you promise you won't give up on me when I do something stupid? The question broke Catherine's heart. I promise. Kids do stupid things. It's part of it. But family doesn't give up on each other. My grandma used to say that. Jaden wiped his face. She said family wasn't blood, it was a choice. Your grandma was a wise woman. Catherine extended her hand. So, do you accept? Jaden looked at the outstretched hand. Then, with a small but real smile, he shook it. I accept. A week later, Jaden was discharged. Jaden. Catherine had prepared a room for him. Not the guest room, but a real room. With a new bed, a wardrobe, a desk. simple but done with care. When Jayden saw it, he couldn't hold back his tears. "It's mine. For real." "Yours for real," Catherine confirmed. "Can I decorate it however I want?" "Of course, it's your space." But the most memorable moment was when Jayden entered the garden and saw Ethan. The boy in the red blazer was in the wheelchair, looking toward the door. When he saw Jayden, his face lit up in a way Catherine hadn't seen in weeks. "Jayden! Hey, superhero!" They hugged so tightly that Catherine had to discreetly wipe away tears. "I thought you weren't coming back," Ethan said. "I thought so too. But your mom is persistent." Jayden looked at Catherine with a smile. "In a good way." "Are you staying? For real?" "Yes, if you want to have an annoying brother like me." "I do," Ethan almost shouted. And so began a new phase. Jayden gradually adapted to life in the mansion. He still woke up early out of street habit. He still ate slowly, savoring every bite as if it could be the last. But little by little he understood that now he had security. School was a challenge. Jayden had only studied up to 3rd grade before his grandmother got sick. He was years behind boys his age, but he had a thirst for learning that impressed the teachers. "He's brilliant," the private tutor told Catherine. "He just needs time and patience. The intelligence is there, he just lacked opportunity." Ethan also improved dramatically. He returned to physical therapy with enthusiasm. Jayden accompanied him to the sessions, learning the exercises alongside him. At home, he helped his friend with stretches and massages. "You should be a physical therapist when you grow up," Ethan said one day. "I don't know. I think I want to be a doctor," Jayden replied. "To be able to help people like you. People who really need it. You'll make it. You can do anything you want." But not everything was easy. Richard continued making nasty comments whenever he could. He questioned Catherine's decisions in the company, made insinuations about Jayden in front of other partners. "She's raising a pet bum," he said in a meeting when he thought Catherine wasn't listening. Catherine entered the room at that moment. Meeting adjourned. "Richard, my office, now." When they were alone, she was direct. "I'm giving you one chance to apologize for what you just said. Catherine, I'm just worried about you. That boy has a name. It's Jayden, and he's part of my family now. You've lost your mind. You're risking everything we've built over a whim." "It's not a whim. It's the best decision I've ever made in my life. And if you can't accept that, maybe it's time we reconsider our partnership." Richard turned red. "You can't kick me out of the company. I own 40% of the shares. I won't kick you out. But I can make your life very difficult if you keep disrespecting my family. Choose your next words wisely, Richard." He swallowed hard and left the room without another word. But Catherine knew it wasn't over. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. 6 months after Jayden moved in with them, something extraordinary happened. It was a Saturday morning. Jayden and Ethan were in the garden doing stretching exercises. Mrs. Margaret was preparing lunch. Catherine was working in the home office. Suddenly, a scream. Catherine dropped everything and ran to the garden. She found Jayden kneeling beside Ethan, who was lying on the ground. "What happened?" she almost shouted. "Mom, Mom!" Ethan was crying, but not from pain. It was something else. "I moved my toe. I felt it. I moved it." Catherine froze. "What?" "We were doing stretches and I felt a tingling. Then I tried to move and I did it. Just a little, but I did it." Dr. Michael was called urgently. He ran every possible test and confirmed it. "There's some neural activity returning. It's minimal, but it's real. This is extraordinary, Catherine. Spinal cord injuries like Ethan's rarely show improvement after so much time." "But why? What changed?" The doctor looked at the 2 boys in the corner of the office, talking animatedly. "What changed was him." He pointed to Jayden. "Emotional state affects physical recovery more than we realize. Ethan was depressed, without hope. Now he has motivation. He wants to get better, and the body responds to that." The following weeks were intense. Ethan was doing physical therapy 4 times a week now. The movements were minimal, but they were there. One toe, then the other. A slight sensation in the calf. Jayden was always by his side, encouraging, pushing Ethan beyond his limits. "Come on, superhero, one more, you can do it." "I can't, Jayden, it hurts too much." "Pain means you're feeling, that's good. Come on, just one more." The doctors began documenting the case. They wanted to study Ethan's recovery. A medical board was formed. "It's rare, but not impossible," Dr. Michael explained. "The human body still surprises us, and the mind is powerful. The combination of physical exercises with improved mental health is working miracles." Catherine watched everything with tears in her eyes. Her son was coming back. Maybe not to walk like before, but he was coming back. It was around that time that Richard made his move. A woman appeared at the mansion door one day. Thin, sunken eyes, worn-out clothes. She claimed to be Jayden's aunt. Said she had been looking for the boy for months. "I'm his only family," she cried dramatically. "Please, give me back my nephew." Catherine was suspicious right away. But legally, if that woman was related to Jayden, she had rights. "What's your name?" Catherine asked. "Say Brenda. Brenda Johnson. I'm Miguel's mother's sister. When she passed, I lost contact with the boy. But I always looked for him. Always. And why only show up now? Because I only just found out where he was. I saw it on TV, the story about that wheelchair-bound boy who's getting better with his friend's help. I recognized my Jayden right away." Catherine felt her stomach turn. That story didn't make sense. "I'll need proof, documents, photos, anything that proves your relationship." "I have them." The woman opened an old bag and pulled out crumpled papers. "Look here, my sister's birth certificate. And here, a photo of Jayden as a baby." The documents seemed real. The photo was old, pixelated, but it really looked like Jayden. "I can only release Jayden if he recognizes you." "I'll call him." When Jayden appeared, his face looked confused. "Who are you?" "Jayden, my love. It's me, Aunt Brenda. Don't you remember me?" The boy looked at the woman with suspicion. "I've never seen you in my life." "Of course you have. You were little, but I took care of you when your mother worked." "My mother passed when I was 2. My grandmother raised me alone. She never mentioned a sister." Jayden crossed his arms. "Your grandmother and I had a fight. That's why she never talked about me. But I am your real aunt." Catherine watched everything carefully. There was something wrong there. "Brenda, what was Jayden's grandmother's name?" The woman hesitated. "Mary Johnson." Jayden let out a bitter laugh. "Wrong. My grandmother's name was Dorothy Reynolds. And yes, she had the same last name as Mrs. Catherine. It was a coincidence." The woman turned red. I got confused. It's been so many years. You're not my aunt. I don't know who you are, but you're lying. You rude boy. I am your aunt, and I'm taking you away from here." "No, you're not." Catherine stepped between them. "I have legal custody of Jayden, and clearly you're not who you say you are. I suggest you leave before I call the authorities." The woman left huffing, but she didn't really leave. She stayed at the mansion door, shouting that she would sue, that she would take Jayden back. It was Mrs. Margaret who discovered the truth. She recognized the woman. "Ma'am, that woman works for someone. I've seen her before doing odd jobs downtown. She's nobody's aunt." "How do you know?" "Because once I overheard her talking with some friends at the bus stop. She was saying she did some work for a wealthy man, that he paid her well to pretend to be a rich kid's relative and try to get money." Catherine's stomach turned to ice. "Richard," she whispered. Everything made sense. Richard had found out about Jayden, had paid that woman to pose as a relative. The plan was to take Jayden from the house, cause trauma to Ethan, and in the confusion, appear as Catherine's savior. Catherine didn't waste any time. She hired a private investigator. In less than a week, she had proof. Photos of Richard meeting with the woman, bank transfers, text messages. She confronted Richard at the office, in front of all the partners. "Did you really think you'd get away with it?" "I don't know what you're talking about. He tried to keep up appearances. No? Catherine threw the photos on the conference table. Then explain this. You paying an actress to pose as Jaden's relative. You trying to break up a family. Why, Richard, out of envy, pettiness? The man turned pale. The other partners looked horrified. I was trying to protect you. Lies. You were trying to manipulate me. But it didn't work. And now you're going to pay for it. Catherine, please. You're out of the company. I'll buy your shares at market value, and if you try anything against me or my family again, these photos go to the press. Understood. Richard left destroyed, but Catherine felt no pity. She felt relief. That night she told Jaden everything. You did that for me? The boy asked, surprised. I did, because you're my family, and nobody messes with my family. Jaden hugged her tight. Thank you. No one had ever stood up for me like that before. Get used to it, because now you have someone in your corner. Always. The months kept passing. Ethan improved slowly but steadily. He could wiggle his toes, had feeling in his legs up to his knees. The doctors talked about partial recovery, maybe even walking with crutches in the future. Jaden excelled in school. He had a knack for numbers and science. The teachers said with dedication he could get into any university he wanted. I want to study medicine, Jaden told Catherine one day. I want to help kids like Ethan, kids who need hope. You're going to be an amazing doctor, Catherine replied with pride. 1 year after Jaden came to live with them, the most special moment happened. It was Ethan's birthday. He would turn 9. The party would be in the garden, just with family and close friends. Nothing too big. Ethan had asked for a specific gift. Mom, I don't want toys. I want you to make Jaden my official brother. A real adoption. Catherine had tears in her eyes. Are you sure? He's already my brother. I just want it to be official. Catherine talked to Jaden about it. How do you feel about the adoption? Jaden was silent for a long moment. I'm scared, he finally admitted. Scared of what? Of forgetting my grandmother, of forgetting who I was before. The life I had, even though it was hard, was my life. It was real. Catherine understood. Jaden, adoption doesn't erase your past. It doesn't erase your grandmother. She'll always be the woman who raised you, who taught you values, who made you who you are. Adoption only adds. It adds more love, more family. It doesn't replace. Can I keep her last name? Dorothy Reynolds, even if I'm adopted by you. We can make you Jaden Dorothy Reynolds Walker. It keeps everything that was yours, adds what's new. Jaden smiled. Then yes, then I accept. The adoption was finalized 2 weeks before Ethan's birthday, but they kept it a secret to announce it at the party. When the moment came, Catherine gathered everyone in the garden. Ethan asked for a special gift this year, and I managed to make it happen. He looked at the 2 boys. Jaden, officially, you are now my son too. Welcome to the Reynolds family for real. The party erupted in applause and tears. Ethan hugged Jaden so tightly they almost fell off the chair. Mrs. Margaret cried like a proud mother. Even Dr. Michael, who had been invited, was moved. Now we are real brothers, Ethan said. We always were superhero, now it's just on paper. But there was one last surprise at that party. Dr. Michael asked to speak. Everyone, I have an announcement. Ethan, Jaden, come here. The boys approached, curious. Ethan, you have dedicated yourself so much to physical therapy that the results have exceeded all expectations. And I spoke with your other doctors. We all agree that you are ready for the next step. What step? Ethan asked. Trying to walk with braces and crutches. It will be difficult, it will hurt. It will require a lot of work, but I believe you can do it. Ethan looked at Jaden with shining eyes. Did you hear? I'm going to try to walk. You will do it, Jaden replied with conviction, and I will be by your side every step of the way. The following months were the most challenging of Ethan's life. The braces were uncomfortable. The crutches hurt his arms. He fell a lot. He cried out of frustration. But Jaden was always there. On the bad days when Ethan wanted to give up, Jaden told stories. He talked about his grandmother, about how she never gave up, even when life became impossible. He talked about resilience, about not letting yourself be defeated. "Do you know the difference between you and other people?" Jaden said one day after Ethan fell for the 10th time during training. "What? Other people can walk and don't appreciate it. You will have to fight for every step. And when you succeed, every step will be a victory. Every step will be worth more." Ethan wiped away his tears and got up again. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, take the opportunity to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out now continuing. 2 years after they first met at the physical therapy clinic, the miracle happened. It was an ordinary morning. Jaden was studying for a science test. Catherine was in the office. Mrs. Margaret was preparing coffee. Ethan was in his room, doing his morning exercises as he always did. Suddenly, they heard a crash. Everyone ran to the room. They found Ethan on the floor, but he wasn't hurt. He was crying and laughing at the same time. "I walked," he said between sobs. "I managed to take 3 steps on my own before falling, 3 real steps." From then on, progress was rapid. Within months, Ethan could walk short distances with crutches. It wasn't perfect. He still had pain. He still tired quickly, but he could do it. On Ethan's 11th birthday, he made his special wish for the party. He wanted to walk to the cake, alone. Catherine was nervous. What if he fell? What if he got hurt? What if it was too much? But Jaden was confident. "He can do it, Mrs. Catherine. Trust him." When the moment came, Ethan got up from the wheelchair. He held the crutches. Mrs. Margaret brought the cake and placed it on the other side of the garden, about 10 meters away. "You can do it, son," Catherine encouraged with a choked voice. Ethan began to walk, step by step, slowly, focused. With each step, the guests held their breath. Jaden walked beside him, ready to catch him if necessary. But he didn't touch him. He let Ethan do it alone. When Ethan finally reached the cake, the entire party erupted in applause. Catherine ran and hugged her son, crying without caring about her smeared makeup. "You did it. You did it, my love." "We did it." Ethan looked at Jaden. "Me and my brother. Together." The years went by. Ethan continued to improve. He never regained the ability to walk perfectly as before the accident, but he managed to have an independent life. He went to college for physical therapy, wanting to help others like him. Jaden graduated with honors from school. He got into medical school at the best university in the country. He specialized in pediatrics, as he always wanted. Catherine expanded the company after Richard left. The business thrived, but her greatest wealth was never money. It was the 2 boys she had welcomed into her home and her heart. Mrs. Margaret retired at 70, but she continued visiting the house every week. She said those boys were her grandchildren in her heart. 15 years after that first meeting at the physical therapy clinic, Ethan and Jaden fulfilled their shared dream. They opened a rehabilitation center for children. It wasn't an ordinary place. There, financial status didn't matter. Poor or rich children all received the same excellent treatment. "This place is special," Ethan explained to the parents who brought their children. "Here we know that recovery isn't just physical, it's emotional. It's having hope, it's having someone who believes in you." Jaden developed a special program. He brought together children in recovery with volunteers who had stories of overcoming adversity. It created connections, friendships, like his with Ethan. Catherine invested a lot of money in the center, but more than money, she invested time. She visited every week. She talked with the families. She shared her story. "I almost made the biggest mistake of my life," she would say. "I almost sent away the person who would save my son, out of prejudice, out of fear, out of pride." And she always ended with the same advice. "Open your hearts. Sometimes help comes from where we least expect it. And sometimes the most unlikely people are exactly who we need." The center grew. More doctors joined. More volunteers appeared. More children were helped. One day, a woman brought her wheelchair-bound daughter to the center. The girl was depressed, without hope. She reminded Ethan of years ago. "I don't know what else to do," the mother confessed, crying. "She doesn't want to live anymore. She thinks her life is over." Jaden looked at the girl. Then he looked at Ethan. "Can I try something?" he asked quietly to the mother. "Anything, please." Jaden approached the girl. "Hi. My name is Jaden. That over there is my brother Ethan. Want to hear a story?" The girl looked suspicious, but curious. "It's a story about a boy who lived on the streets and a boy who couldn't walk. Sounds sad, right? But it's not. It's about how they saved each other." And Jaden told the story. He told about that day at the physical therapy clinic, about the friendship that was born, about the challenges, the doubts, the small victories that became big ones. Ethan joined the story, adding his own memories. "There was a day I wanted to give up," Ethan recounted. "It hurt so much. I didn't see any progress. It seemed useless to try. And you know what Jaden did?" "What?" the girl asked, now engaged. "He carried me on his back and started running through the garden. He ran so much I thought he was going to faint. And when he finally stopped, out of breath, he said, 'See, I ran for both of us today. Tomorrow you try a little more for both of us. And one day each runs for themselves, but never alone.'" The girl started to cry. "Do you think I can get better?" "I don't know," Jaden was honest. "Every body is different. Every injury is different, but I know you can try. You. And trying is already a kind of victory." The girl became a patient at the center. It took years, but she improved. She didn't regain the ability to walk, but she recovered mobility in her arms and torso. More importantly, she regained the will to live. And she was just one of hundreds of similar stories. The center became a reference. Doctors came from other cities to learn the methods. Journalists wrote articles about the revolutionary work. But for Ethan and Jaden, it was never about fame or recognition. It was about giving back to the world a little of what they had received. It was about turning pain into purpose. It was about not letting anyone feel alone in the struggle. In an interview, a journalist asked Jaden what he attributed the center's success to. "It's simple," Jaden replied. "We don't just treat injuries. We treat people. And people need to be seen, they need to be heard, they need to feel important. When you do that, the body responds, the mind responds, everything responds." But where does this philosophy come from? From a lady named Dorothy, who taught me that caring for someone was more than just meeting physical needs. It was about dignity. And from a woman named Catherine, who showed me that family is who chooses to love you. And from a boy named Ethan, who taught me that true strength doesn't come from muscles. It comes from the heart. 20 years after that meeting at the clinic, Catherine was 62 years old. She still ran the company, but in a more relaxed way. She spent more time at the center, helping however she could. One day she was in the center's garden, watching the children play. Children in wheelchairs, children on crutches, children with braces, all together, all laughing, all living. Ethan approached and sat beside her. "Mom, there's something I never properly thanked you for." "Thank you for what, son?" "For giving me Jaden. For believing in him when no one else did. For choosing love instead of fear." Catherine took her son's hand. "I didn't give him to you, you found each other. I just had the wisdom not to get in the way." She paused. "Well, after almost getting completely in the way." Ethan laughed. "That day you found the necklace was tough." "It was the worst decision I ever made, and the best lesson I ever learned." Catherine looked at her own fingers. "I learned that judging too quickly can cost what's most precious. I almost lost both of you because of my pride. But you didn't, and look at what we've built." They fell silent for a moment, just watching. Jaden came running out, still in his lab coat. "Guys, you have to see this." Little Emily took her first step. The three of them hurried inside. They found a 6-year-old girl with braces on her legs, taking shaky little steps between the parallel bars. Her mother was crying with joy. The physical therapists were applauding. Catherine watched the scene with tears in her eyes. 20 years ago it was her son in that position, struggling, trying, falling, getting up. And now he was on the other side, helping other children do the same. That evening, the three of them had dinner together at the mansion, as they did every Friday. Mrs. Margaret had prepared their favorite food. "Remember when we first met?" Ethan asked suddenly. "How could I forget?" Jaden smiled. "You in that red blazer, all full of yourself. Me all hungry, trying to act tough. I wasn't full of myself. Yes, you were. But you were a cool kind of full of yourself. Jayden laughed. And that blazer really was like a superhero's. Do you still have it? Catherine asked curiously. I do, Ethan admitted. Stored in the closet, it doesn't fit anymore, obviously. But I can't bring myself to get rid of it. It has too much history. You should donate it to a child at the center, Jayden suggested. Pass the luck forward. Ethan thought for a moment. You know what? You're right. I'll give it to the first child who can take 3 steps on their own, like a victory prize. She'll love it, Catherine agreed. The conversation flowed naturally. They reminisced about old stories, laughing at things that weren't funny at the time, like when Jayden ate so much at the first official dinner at the house that he was sick all night, or when Ethan tried to impress Jayden by doing an exercise that was too advanced and ended up stuck in an embarrassing position for 20 minutes. You two are impossible together, Catherine would say, but she was smiling. We always have been, Jayden agreed. But I think that's why it works. Mrs. Margaret appeared with dessert. Look what I made. Carrot cake. Just like the one from Jayden's first dinner here. Jayden felt his eyes well up. Mrs. Margaret, you always remember everything. How could I forget? You ate 3 slices and still asked for more. She ruffled his hair affectionately. Such a hungry boy. I had a lot of built-up hunger, Jayden defended himself with a laugh. I was afraid there wouldn't be food the next day, Ethan added quietly. That's why I ate so much. It took me a while to understand that. A respectful silence fell over the table. These were the moments that reminded them where they had come from, how much had changed, how lucky they were to have found each other. You know what's funny? Catherine broke the silence. I was always worried about security. I installed cameras, alarms, I was afraid of intruders, and in the end, the best thing that ever entered this house was someone I would never have let in if I'd known he was sleeping in the garden. You slept in the garden? Mrs. Margaret almost dropped the cake. A few times, Jayden admitted, before Mrs. Catherine officially took me in. I was worried about Ethan. I wanted to be close in case he needed me during the night. Jayden, Catherine held his hand. You were 10 years old. 10 years old and already had more compassion in your little finger than most adults have in their entire bodies. My grandmother used to say compassion has no age. You either have it or you don't. Your grandmother raised an incredible man. She started the work, Jayden looked at Catherine, but you finished it. You two were my mothers, in different ways but equally important. The evening continued. Laughter, stories, plans for the future. Jayden talked about a new rehabilitation technique he wanted to implement at the center. Ethan spoke about a physical therapy conference he was going to present at. Catherine commented about a new branch of the company. Everyone had purposes. Everyone had dreams. Everyone had each other. When the evening ended and everyone went to their rooms, Catherine stayed in the living room a little longer. She looked at the photos on the wall. There was a photo from the day she met Jayden. He was so thin, so small, but he had that smile that lit up any room. There were photos of Ethan's first steps with crutches, of Jayden's graduation day, of the day they opened the center, of birthdays, Christmases, ordinary moments that became special because they were together. She thought about how unpredictable life was, how a driver's mistake, a simple delay, had changed everything, how the decisions she had made, some right and some terribly wrong, had led them there. And for the 1000th time, she gave thanks. She thanked that Jayden had appeared that day. She thanked for having the chance to correct her mistake. She thanked for learning to see beyond appearances. 1 year later, at a special ceremony, the Rehabilitation Center received a national award for innovation and social impact. Ethan and Jayden were called to the stage to receive it. I don't know how to make pretty speeches, Jayden began, holding the trophy, so I'll speak from the heart. This award isn't ours. It belongs to every child who fought when they wanted to give up. It belongs to every family who didn't give up when the situation seemed impossible. It belongs to every person who chose to believe even without guarantees. Ethan continued. And it belongs to a woman who taught us that family is a verb, not just a noun. Family is built every day, with choices, with actions, with love. Thank you, Mom. He looked at Catherine in the audience. "For building this family with us." The audience rose in applause. Catherine cried without caring who saw. After the ceremony, journalists wanted interviews. But there was one question everyone asked. "What's the secret to your success?" And both Ethan and Jayden gave the same answer. "There is no secret, there is presence, there is listening. There is seeing the other as a complete person, not as a problem to be solved. And there's not giving up, even when it seems impossible," the journalist insisted. "But there has to be something more, some special technique." "There is," Jayden finally answered. "The technique is called true friendship. When you genuinely care about the other, when you're present not just physically but emotionally, when you believe in that person more than they believe in themselves, that's what makes the difference. Medical technique anyone can learn. Truly caring, few can manage." The interview was published in specialized magazines. The center received more attention. More children came. More lives were changed. But for that unlikely family that had formed 20 years earlier, nothing had changed in the essentials. Every Friday they still had dinner together. Every Sunday they went to the center together, even though it was their day off. Every month they set aside a day to do something just for fun, without talking about work or problems. "We need to keep our traditions," Ethan always said. "They remind us where we came from." Jayden agreed. He had tattooed on his arm a single word, Dorothy, and on his other arm, Reynolds. It was his way of honoring both families, the one that raised him and the one that chose him. Catherine, in turn, always wore a necklace. It wasn't the grandmother's pearl necklace that had caused so much trouble years before. It was a simple necklace with 2 pendants, 2 boys holding hands. She had it specially made. "One reminds me of the other," she explained when someone asked. "Separated they're incomplete, together they're unbeatable." And it was true. Ethan without Jayden would never have found the strength to fight. Jayden without Ethan would never have had the chance to prove his worth. Catherine without both would never have learned the real meaning of family. They needed each other, and there was no shame in that, because dependence isn't weakness when it comes with love. It's just another form of strength. A few more years passed. The center expanded. They opened branches in other cities. They trained more professionals. They helped thousands of children and families. But for that original family, the favorite place remained the mansion's garden. There, where everything had begun, where Jayden had slept hidden, wanting to be near his friend, where Ethan had taken his first steps, where Catherine had learned her greatest lessons. "This garden is magical," Ethan said. "Here everything is possible." "It's not the garden," Jayden corrected. "It's the people in it. The place doesn't work miracles alone." "Then it's you. You're the miracle," Ethan retorted. "I'm not a miracle. I'm just a guy who was lucky to find a family when I needed it most. And I was lucky to find a brother when I needed it most." Catherine watched their conversations and smiled. She smiled because she had succeeded. She had succeeded in giving her children something that money could never buy: true connection, purpose, unconditional love. One day a reporter came to do a special story. She wanted to document the whole story from the beginning. She interviewed the 3 separately. "Mrs. Catherine, do you regret anything?" "I regret having doubted Jayden when I found the necklace," she answered without hesitation. "I regret having let prejudice speak louder. I regret having taken so long to understand what really matters." "And what really matters?" "People, connections, the courage to choose love when the world says to choose fear." For Jayden, the question was different. "Do you miss your life before? The freedom to wander around?" Jayden thought for a long moment. "I miss my grandmother, every day. But the street life? No. That wasn't freedom. It was survival. True freedom is having choices. It's being able to study, dream, build a future. It's knowing there are people who care whether you come home or not." "What would you say to your 10-year-old self?" "I'd say it's going to hurt a lot before it gets better. I'd say not to be afraid to accept help. I'd say family doesn't need to be blood to be real, and I'd say to never ever stop believing things can change." For Ethan, the question was about overcoming. "How did you find the strength to keep going when it seemed impossible?" "I didn't find it alone. Jayden found it for me first. He believed when I couldn't, and that gave me one more day, then another day, then another, until I learned to believe for myself. But it was never about individual strength, it was about having someone holding your hand in the dark. The article was published. It became a documentary. It became a book. It became inspiration for many people. But for those three, it remained just their life. A life that had begun with an unlikely meeting and transformed into something bigger than any of them could imagine. On the center's 25th anniversary, they threw a huge party. Former patients came from across the country, families who had passed through over the years, doctors, physical therapists, volunteers. The garden was full. Children ran around, some in wheelchairs, some with crutches, some walking perfectly. There was no difference there. They were all children being children. Jaden was talking with a former patient who was now also a doctor, inspired by him. Ethan was demonstrating a new physical therapy technique to a group of students. Catherine was welcoming guests, making everyone feel at home. In the middle of the party, Ethan asked for everyone's attention. "Everyone, I want to give a special thank you. 25 years ago, my life was over. Or at least I thought it was. I couldn't walk. I saw no purpose. I had no hope." He paused. And then a street kid showed up at a physical therapy clinic and changed everything. Jaden tried to interrupt, but Ethan continued. "This boy taught me that disability isn't in the legs. It's in giving up. He taught me to fight. He taught me to dream. And most importantly, he taught me what true friendship is." He looked at Jaden. "You saved my life, bro, in every possible way. And this center exists because you existed at the right moment." The audience applauded. Jaden was clearly emotional. "Can I respond?" "Of course." Jaden came forward. "Ethan is being too generous. The truth is we saved each other. I was lost when I found you. I was alone. I had nobody. And you saw me, really saw me. Not as a charity project, as an equal, as a friend." He wiped his eyes. "You and your mother gave me something I thought I'd lost forever when my grandmother passed. You gave me a home." Catherine joined them at the front. "And you two gave me something I didn't even know was missing. You gave me purpose beyond work. You gave me lessons no MBA could teach. You showed me what it really means to have a family." She looked at the audience. "So this center isn't just for children in recovery. It's for anyone who needs reminding that we're not alone, that there's beauty in asking for help, and that sometimes the greatest blessings come disguised as challenges." The party continued through the night. Stories were shared, laughter echoed, tears were shed. And in that garden where everything had begun 25 years earlier, three people who shouldn't have met, who shouldn't have cared, who shouldn't have become family, proved that impossible was just a word. That true love knows no barriers, knows no prejudice, knows no impossible. And that sometimes all we need to change the world is to be willing to see the humanity in whoever stands before us. A homeless child who became a doctor, a boy who couldn't walk who became a physical therapist, a woman who had everything but nothing at the same time who became a real mother. 3 lives, 1 story, infinite lessons. And it all started because a driver got sick, because a boy decided to enter a clinic, because a friendship was born where it was least expected. The best stories are always like this: improbable, unexpected, impossible, until they happen. And when they do, they change everything. End of story. And you, dear listener, what did you think of this story of overcoming and love? Did it touch you? Do you believe Catherine made the right decision by giving Jaden a chance? Leave your honest opinion in the comments. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories. Your participation is very important to us. Thank you very much for your company.